Hi, do-it-yourselfers, Bob here. Today I'm going to be changing out the front brakes on my 2018 Porsche Macan GTS. Unfortunately, when I watched the video, the audio was muted, so I'm going to have to do a voiceover on this. I apologize for that. So let's look at what we're going to need. The left and the right front rotor, the rotor clips, the brake pad clips, the sensor wires, caliper bolts, and then the centering screws and the brake pads themselves. Also, I like to bring along a lot of brake cleaning fluid, and I've also got some extra brake fluid because I like to drain it and then add more in after the fact, and that's just the filter for the reservoir. So I've got the wheels off, and I'm just giving it a good cleaning. I like to clean before I do any work on it, so I'm not working on dirty equipment. So I go through lots of brake cleaner on that. And I'm working out of a great place. It's called Lugnuts here in Calgary. It's a do-it-yourself rental bays with all kinds of good equipment and stuff. So I thought I'd give it a try and do the brake change here. So once that's all cleaned off, then I'll start by draining out some of the fluid using a siphon. Take it down to about halfway because the pads or the calipers have been extended. So when we compress them to put in the new lines, I want to make sure that doesn't overflow. So here, it's hard to get the camera in there, but I'm just disconnecting the sensor wire, and it's just a little tab that you have to get out of the metal shim. You turn it 90 degrees counterclockwise and then pull down, and the whole assembly comes out, and then you could disconnect the sensor from the plug that goes into the thing. And notice here too that it goes on the inside of the brake line itself. It's important that when you put that back in, you make sure that again it's on the inside of the brake line itself. So that's it. And you can see a little tab at the top. That's the one that has to be rotated, pulled out and rotated. And then you just push it in to disconnect the main wire. And then how it's run is it uses the inside bleeder valve cover, dust cover, to hold the line in place. So it's just a matter of lifting up the dust cover, getting it out of the way, and then the line is free, and that goes over through a groove into the brake pad area itself. And I'll just leave that in place, and it'll come out when I pull out the pads. So next up is to get the caliper bolts off, and that uses a 14 millimeter triple square. Um, Make sure it's seated well. And I need an adapter here, obviously, to get that off. So there's two caliper bolts, one on top, one on the bottom. They're quite long, so it does take a while to get them out, but no big deal. And these are single use. They're torque to yield bolts. I know some people reuse theirs, but honestly, because they're torque to yield, you may as well get them. And I got this kit from Pelican, I believe, quite a while back. And it's just easier to get the full kit. So those are the bolts themselves. And I just mark them that they're old. I won't reuse them again. but you can see I've got them both off now. So now I've hung up the brake caliper just to the upper suspension with these little sort of S hooks. Normally I use a couple of Porsche parts that go into the caliper bolts and slide, the whole rotor slides right out vertically. They're really long extended things. They work on the Panamera, Macan, and GT and Cayman with the larger brakes. So unfortunately, I couldn't find them when I was going to do this, so I just went ahead and hung them from the upper suspension. So when you hang it, make sure, watch the brake lines. You definitely don't want to kink those. Make sure there's lots of room and not to put any stress on those. So next up is to take out the pads. So before I do that, I'm going to compress the pistons, six piston calipers. Compress those all the way down so the new pads will go in and fit. So I've got a pad compression tool here. It's kind of a ratcheting tool, one of a few that I have, and I find this one works really good. So you just want to make sure that the pads are as flat as possible against the calipers, or against the pistons, I should say, and then take those out, and you can see they're pretty much as flat as they can go. Again, that's another reason why you drain the reservoir to start with, just to make sure it doesn't overflow. So now you take out the pads. You can see there's still a few millimeters left on these pads, but I knew they were getting close by looking at them, so I thought I may as well go ahead and change out the full assembly. And taking out the second one, which is closest to the motor itself. Sometimes they get stuck in there with all the road grime and rust and dirt or whatever, brake pad residue. So just take your time. Eventually you'll yard it out of there. And this one was a little stubborn, so it took me a little while, but I finally managed to get it out. You don't want to pry behind that because you could damage the rings for the pistons. You don't want to put a screwdriver or something behind the pad to try and yard it out. Just take your time, work it out. You'll eventually get it snapped out of there. There we go. So there's that one with the sensor attached. Now, it's hard to see in the thing, but it's actually down to the wire. So it's ground quite a bit away. I'm sure within the next 100 kilometers, my brake warning would have kicked off, and I would have had to do this procedure anyways. So I'm glad I was doing it while I was. You can see the pistons are quite compact. Now to take out the springs, there's one on the top, one on the bottom. I already pulled out the one on the bottom here. And the easiest way I found is to just tap it out from the outside. They're a compression fit and they just pop right out once you give it a few bangs with something soft. And the new one's going in. It's just a vertical top and bottom that make the connection against your compression fit. Just get those marks lined up and push outward, and you'll eventually hear them snap into place. Takes a little bit of finger strength, but you'll get them. And you'll hear them snap. Next up, doing the bottom one, same thing, just push it into place and it's done. So now there's the difference between the two pads. You can see quite a bit of difference. It's less than a third left. So here's the brake pad sensor, and you can see the fat part goes toward the inside. Um, you'll see it when you put it on there that the largest part of the sensor goes inside toward the inside of the caliper and rotor. So these pads were kind of a pain to put in, but the easiest way I found is to sort of put the bottom in on an angle first because you're compressing against those two caliper springs, top and bottom, that I put in earlier. So best thing is to sort of angle it in. There you go, from the bottom, and then try and get the ears to line up. And there is a shim plate already on these pads, so that was kind of sliding around a little, made it a little difficult, but there eventually just clicks right in. And same thing with the other brake pad. Now, the one thing you may have noticed that I did here mistakenly was I put the brake sensor wire on the wrong pad. I wasn't thinking about it, I was just focusing on getting it done, and I actually put it on the wrong pad. I noticed it before I put it on, thank goodness. Mounted it and then took it out, and I'll show you coming up. I just mounted it from the outside. You don't necessarily have to do it while you're putting the pads in. You could do it after you get the pads and caliper on the rotor. It just pushes down and you can press it that way. So now the pads are in. Everything looks good. Now to replace the rotor. A lot of people talk about, can I just replace the pads? Do I need to replace the rotor and the pads every time? Porsche's official stance is yes, replace the rotor and the pads every time. I looked at these ones. The best thing to do is take a measurement of your rotor thickness. I think the minimum wear on these rotors, and I could be wrong, is 32 millimeters. Um, I think it's probably 4 millimeters from good to not good. But I could feel the lip on the edge, and I knew that if I put a pair of pads on and ran those, because these ones were nice and smooth, that I'd be fine. But halfway through the rotor life, or the pad life, I'd have to replace the rotors. And I already had the kit. I've had it for quite a long time. I brought it proactively, so I just thought I'd go ahead and replace it all, and it'll probably last me the lifetime of the vehicle on this next set of rotors and pads. And again, they were nice and smooth, so there's no grooves. If there's grooves or scoring or marking, definitely want to replace the rotors at the same time. And you can see I left the wheel dowel in place because these rotors get stuck to the inside hub, and you usually have to yard them off. In my case, I'm just banging the heck out of it. And when it comes loose quickly, and you don't want it to drop on your feet because they are quite heavy. So that's why I just leave that dowel in place, and that prevents it from dropping on my feet. So you can see how rusty and stuff the hub is. So I'm just going to take out the dowel and give it a good clean, just with a wire brush. There's quite a bit of gunk on this one, so I give it a good clean, and then after the fact I shot it with more of the brake clean. I really like using that product on a lot of things. It's very handy for cleaning. So after that, get her all cleaned up. Um, it's good. I'm putting on some copper-based anti-seize. That's what they had on hand. I didn't have any with me, so thank goodness they had some. But I just decided to spread some on so that doesn't happen if I have to do that again. It won't seize up as bad as it was. And if possible, before I put the new rotor on, I took off my other nitrile gloves and I put on other gloves. I just didn't want my oils from my hand and fingers, and I was sweating too, to touch the rotor. Clean it up afterwards anyways, but if you can, best to wear gloves while you do this. I don't know why, but for some reason I keep putting the dowel way too close to the centering screw. I don't know why. So there's a rotor. Just having a good look at it, seeing where the screw hole is, and you want to make sure it's a little tricky to get right to the hole. You could see that the Germans wonderfully marked right and left on the rotors themselves, so you can't make a mistake. I also check the vanes on the outside when I'm doing these to make sure how the vanes spin for cooling matches the one that I took off. So then the trick is just trying to line that hole up perfectly so you can get the set screw in there. And you can see right now it's a bit off, and I didn't really tell at first that it was off. I thought it would center itself, but it didn't. So I just had to adjust everything just to make sure. And then I finally decided, yeah, good idea. I should move that 'cause it makes it easier to screw it in. And it's still slightly off, so you just have to move it around till the hole lines up perfectly. It should be able to go in there simply with finger tight to get it going. That way you know you're not stripping the threads or putting it in incorrectly. And this is a, can't remember the size of the, oh, it's a T30 bit. That's what it is. So Torx 30 for that little centering screw or rotor screw. And the head that I was using was a little stripped, so I was trying to be extra careful to make sure I didn't damage the threads for it. And I don't take this down to any torque. I just do it as tight as I feel appropriate because the caliper is going to be over it. It's not going to move anywhere. And I'll give it a clean off once I get the caliper back on just to make sure any stuff on the rotor is cleaned off. Now remounting the caliper back on. Make sure, that's why making sure that the pads compressed were important so that it easily fits over the rotor and you're not forcing it in there. So you can see I'm missing the brake sensor line. I figured it out that it was in the wrong place. So they're both pads have the slots for it, so you want to make sure it's on the inside one closest to the strut. And like I said, the fat part of the sensor side goes in towards the center of the rotor. It's just two small wires, so it fits in there pretty good. And you'll feel it click into place when it finally gets there. There you go. And then reroute it the way it was before. So fold the wiring into the little route channel there and make the connection to the inside sensor before you put it over the bleeder cap. I don't know why I did that here first. So make sure you do the connection to the full sensor first. Um, and when you do that, ensure that it goes on the inside of the brake line, like the old one was, but a lot of people forgot that or reroute it to the outside. So just slip it through the inside the little bracket for the brake line, make the connection, and then turn it sideways 90 degrees and slide it up into the slot and then rotate it 90 degrees again, and the little tab at the top will click into the steel mounting bracket. It's hard to show here. I apologize for that. Now once it's all done, you need to torque down the caliper bolts. So what I like to do is snug them up first, top and bottom. And then it's a 22 foot-pound initial torque. Once that's done, it's a 90-degree retorque afterwards, or secondary torque. So what I usually do is just, once it's done to the 22 foot-pounds, put a marker at the top of each caliper bolt. Just using a Sharpie here. And then retorque the 90 degrees. There, now everything's mounted. Just a final cleanup with some brake clean, just to make sure I haven't left over any grease or fingerprints or oils or anything. And give the big reds a nice clean while you're at it. And for this one, it's just a matter of putting the wheel back on. Once it's dropped to the ground, torque it up. But now I'm going to go do the other side, exactly the same process as this. And also, once again, checking the brake fluid reservoir. Make sure that's up to the top. And once it's all good, put the filter back in. And then fumble around with the thing and lose it into the cap and lose it into the thing. I got that out. He did it, just had to pull up the plastic. So there, they're on the ground, they're torqued, everything's good. The last step, of course, is to do bedding the pads and make sure everything's good. I hope that helps.